You're listening to SM Media, the number one place for exclusive Scottish football content.
You have a heart of a giant, show it. You got the pride of a lion, roaring. Maybe you need big love, you don't need to give up. 'Cause something real is waiting there for you. You've been flying solo, now it's time to let go. The only thing that's left for you to do.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Scottish Women's Football Show on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. We've had a bit of a break over the past few weeks. There's not been a lot happening in terms of, obviously, a lot of games been called off. We've obviously had Christmas and New Year, and it's obviously been a quiet time, but we're back to kind of full league action. We obviously had the Scottish Cup last week, and if you want to see that, you can look at our match reports on the website. And obviously, we're back to full league action this week, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome this week's special guest, current Stenhousemuir forward Helen Templeton. Helen, welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm looking forward to this. We've been trying to get this done for a while, but call-offs and kind of Christmas has been getting in the way, isn't it? But it's an absolute pleasure to finally get you on.
No, it's good to be here, albeit just slightly bunged up with the flu, but we'll see if I can do my best tonight for you.
Absolute pleasure. Looking forward to it. There's a lot to get through. Obviously, we've had some kind of big action over the past few weeks, and we'll just obviously talk about your time at Stenhousemuir. So you've obviously had a kind of bit of difficult time with injury and things like that, and as you say, kind of flu and things like that. How you been? How's it been at Stenhousemuir this season? It's a big league. There's a lot of talented teams in it. Stenhousemuir are currently sitting fourth on 26 points from 13 games. It's been a solid season so far, you would say.
Yeah, you've just outed me there because I had kind of kept my injury under wraps. I just kind of floated out of the game a few weeks ago, and I've not really told many folk what happened. But since joining Stenhousemuir, obviously it was a decision that I'd taken to leave St Johnstone prior to obviously going to Stenhousemuir because just to travel. And then, in all fairness, I was just after a bit more game time. In your latter years, the last thing you want to do is sit on a bench and bench warm. So I wanted to just make sure in the years that I had left that I was playing. So when I went to Stenhousemuir, I felt like I had a good run in the first few games. Obviously, I think I missed the first 5. So I joined them 5 games in, and then I went on a good wee run. Trying to reinvent myself as a forward striking player rather than a winger. I think you'd probably agree with me that as you get older, trying to play out on the wing and competing against like 18, 19-year-olds just gets tougher and tougher. So I made the decision to try and play my trade up top, and it went really well. I think I was 6 goals in 7 or 7 goals in 8 games or something when I started Stenny. So I was really pleased with that. And then just an innocuous fall recently in a game, wasn't even a bad tackling in it, and just took my MCL out. So I didn't rupture that, sorry, I tore that, having feared it was ruptured, but no operation or anything needed, and I've just been doing my rehab, and I'm really close at the moment to now getting myself back involved in the game, so hopefully you'll see that pretty soon. But I'm just hoping that I can come back in where I left off. Really, that's always the fear, isn't it? That time out and injury and illness as well on top of that can kind of knock you from your stride. But the gaffer's had, put his trust in me, and hopefully he'll feel that I've repaid that up to this point. And I'm keen to get back and see if I can get the ball in the back of the net some more times this season.
Obviously, as well, like you said, like reinventing yourself and kind of changing your game and things like that. Like as well, like Stenhousemuir, you kind of went there, the kind of leadership thing as well. How does it feel like when you're now at a stage where you're kind of more of a kind of leader towards younger players? How's that? Does that kind of put more pressure on you? Or is that, now that you've kind of reached that stage in your career, what does that kind of feel like?
I think personally it's something that I kind of relish. I feel really privileged to have been able to have been in the game for as long as I have, and you like go full circle. I started off my career as a captain at high school, and then through the university level, and then I've done my time listening to older players, learning from them, learning from the management. So by now I kind of feel like it's my turn to give that back and try and encourage the younger folk through the game. And whether they want to listen to what I'm saying or not is completely up to them. But there is a young squad at Stenhousemuir, and there's a couple of us in there at the moment, but I am the oldest, you won't be surprised to hear. I know you're sitting there going, no way, she's 38, no danger. But yeah, 39 this year. So I think it's probably my turn to try and put my arm around a few folk and encourage them on. And hopefully, as I said, in the few games that I've had at Stenhousemuir, I've been able to do that because, you know, there is a lot of youth and a lot of exuberance and the pace and the speed and the stamina that maybe I don't have anymore. But I think, you know, there's a place for, I always argue this is always a place for the older players in a squad. I think that's going to be key for me this season to try and you know, support the younger ones into the game.
And like the kind of way the leagues have went as well, obviously from when you started to now, there's so many more opportunities for players as well. How's that been? Like a league, you mentioned there's a lot of young players coming through as well. It must be great for where you kind of started to see now just how much the game's growing.
Do you know, I actually was thinking this earlier when I was thinking about, you know, what we might be talking about tonight on the show. Like, it's such a privilege to have been like a part of the journey and the growth of women's football in Scotland. It sounds so cliche, but when I was playing, you were playing in strips that were 10 sizes too big, that were hand-me-downs from the local men's team. And you were changing in the back of cars because there was no changing facilities for women, and the guys were in there using it at the same time. So, like, yeah, it's just mad. And the fact that there are now fully professional clubs in the Scottish setup is incredible. Just gutted that I missed it by just a couple of years there to get my spot. But it really is like incredible how much the women's game's grown. The amount of teams that are now formed and beginning. I saw recently on the SWFL or the Scottish Women's page that there's now like a good few amount of teams that are formed in this new league. So it is incredible, and you know, I think there's so many opportunities now for young girls to get into it. And when I look back at, you know, it's bittersweet. I think where I could have gone maybe if there had been those opportunities when I was younger. But for now, for the kids coming through, like, to have that aspiration. I'm a teacher. I've got kids at school that are, you know, mega keen on football, and I want to be like Lizzie Arnott, and I want to do this and I want to do that. And back in the day, you might have been like, you know, you'll be chancing your arm there. But nowadays, there's so many opportunities and pathways. It really is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And your own career as well, obviously, we'll do a wee bit of reflection. And your career obviously spent time like Hamilton, Rangers. They're probably the two you would say, like St John's was another one. But Hamilton, you're remembered fondly. I spoke to a couple of Hamilton fans, and they think a lot of you. Like, you must have some great memories in the game. Like, what kind of stands out in your career?
Do you know, like, I've read articles before where managers and things have commented on how many clubs players have been at over their career. But you got to remember that I think I'm on to club 11 now, but my career stems from, well, I started playing the game when I was 4, so 34 years I'm in it. And I started playing for a senior club when I was 18, when I came down to university. So I have had my fair share of clubs, but the ones that stand, you know, you've got different memories from everywhere. But obviously, being a Rangers fan myself, playing for Rangers was huge for me. But that was a bit bittersweet as well. I feel like personally, I'd maybe gone there a few years later into my career. If I'd gone there maybe 6-7 years earlier, I might have had more of an impact and inevitably left there through lack of game time. So that was a bit bittersweet. To be able to play for the club that you've supported all your life is incredible. And nobody can take that from me. But like I said, a bit bittersweet in the way that ended. Hamilton's where I spent most of my years, actually. And I was thinking about this today. Like, I've always been a player that once I'm there, I'm 100% committed. And I suppose latterly, as I get a bit older, that may have changed because priorities in life change. I've got a full-time job, I travel and things, and etc. But I was a bit fancy-free when I was a student. So Hamilton was where I stayed for, I think, eight or 9 seasons. And again, I had a lot of game time at Hamilton, but I was never really probably a consistent starter over a season. I would have my spells in and out. But like I said, that's where I applied my trade really in this, you know, in the top level. At that point, Hamilton were in the Premier League. Obviously, you mentioned that the leagues have changed over the years, but so that was where I made I had most of my time playing against your Caroline Weirs and, you know, your Joe Loves and all your top international players. And I suppose I'm really grateful for that opportunity. So that's probably a really good memory. But again, you know, Premier League, one of the things I think that we need to remember in this country is some of the leagues underneath are really competitive, and you get some incredible football in those leagues. I was involved in the league last season when it was just 7th, or a couple of seasons ago at Boroughmuir. I honestly think that was one of the most competitive leagues you would have been able to watch football. And then obviously my time at Motherwell was quite successful. I think we went through a season winning every game, not dropping any points, and winning the cup as well. So lots of good things to think back on when I'm older.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's been a really good career you've had so far, and we'll touch about kind of later on about what your kind of plans are after playing. But we have some kind of league action to discuss. I want to get your thoughts on the kind of games over the weekend. We'll start in the SWPL 1. Celtic, obviously, with Clarissa Larissi has joined Hacking, but you wouldn't have thought that affected them after the performance on Sunday. An 8-0 away victory over Glasgow Women. Amy Gallagher continuing a terrific run with 4 goals. Natalie Ross, Hayes, Jacinta and McInerney with the goals to give Celtic an 8-0 away victory. Again, obviously, Clarissa Larissi is going to be a big loss, but Celtic, that's some display, winning 8-0 when Amy Gallagher's in a really good run of form.
Do you know, it's I was looking at this result last week when they played, was it last week or 2 weeks ago when they played Falkirk, and I actually thought, do you know what, the gulf between Celtic and the majority of teams in Scotland is just incredible. It's kind of comes back to the point where you've got a full-time professional team playing against, other teams who, like anybody else, usually goes to training twice a week or 3 times a week, 4 maybe max, but they're carrying out full-time jobs at the same time, and the influx of money that comes into the clubs is very, very small in comparison. You can't question the quality that Celtic have all over the place. I would argue that, I know you've got your top 3 consistently throughout the season, but I would argue that Celtic are maybe up there with in the top 2 this season. So for me, it was always going to be a Celtic win. The quality throughout is just incredible. But for me, Glasgow Women, I've got a couple of friends that play there, a couple of ex-teammates actually. One of the Stenhousemuir girls has gone there this week. And I think for them, it would have been maybe a bit remiss to have expected to take points from that game just because of what we've spoken about. So, I think they'll probably go away and evaluate and have a look at, the 8 goals that went past them. I'm sure some of them would have been preventable, and that's what they've got to look at. But no disrespect to Glasgow Women, but Celtic are just too strong.
And see, there was a couple of kind of conversations during the week about obviously Larissi going to Sweden and things like that, saying that it's a bad look for the Scottish game. Do you go along with that? Because obviously she has been a big player for Celtic, but it depends the offer you can get. And obviously the Scandinavia, there's still a lot of money and there's still a lot of kind of progress in that side of kind of football as well. What's your kind of thoughts on that transfer?
Listen, football's football, isn't it? And this is where we are now kind of finding ourselves in comparison to the men's game. In essence, I don't think the women's game and the men's game is ever going to be fully comparable, but we're now having to compete for players. I don't know if you remember, like when I first started playing, there was no players from out with our country that played in Scottish football. And in the men's game, it's the complete opposite. You wouldn't rely on your players within your country. You would always go elsewhere, and that's kind of the nature of the sport. So I think women in the women's game are kind of having to find ourselves in that position where we are looking elsewhere. And Glasgow City were probably the team in Scotland that led the way in that and trying to bring in international players and foreign players. So I mean, it is what it is, and you're going to go to the club that best suits you, and whether the women's game will go in that direction where money is the most important thing. Fair be it. Like we've just seen Ronaldo going abroad, probably for the cash signs. But I've got no problem with it, and I think that it's no detriment to the Scottish game that players are looking to go abroad and vice versa. Like it is what it is. It's how football works.
Yeah, and Celtic obviously we spoke about it the earlier part of the season. Obviously with Charlie Wellens going as well, we thought they would struggle to replace those goals. They're certainly doing well, and Amy Gallagher's been a big part of that as well. But Glasgow City obviously continue their good run at the top of the league. They're still 6 points clear, an 8-1 win away to Dundee United. Erin Greenham with a hat-trick, Lisa Forrest with a double, goals with Lauder, Whelan and Davidson. Obviously, Leanne Ross is the interim head coach. If she's looking to get the job full-time, she's certainly doing her chances no harm.
No, I've been watching the results coming in over the last few weeks, and sometimes it's really difficult to step up from that player to assistant, and assistant obviously to gaffer. But Again, Dundee United are a really good side. They were in the league I played in when I was at Boroughmuir, and they stepped up. They were a really difficult side to beat. Most recently, I played them with St Johnstone, and again, a difficult side. But when you put them up against Glasgow City, and you've got the likes of Chinchilla and like you said, Davison, these guys are on the score sheet every week, regardless of who they're playing. So it is a tough one, but I think Leanne is doing a fantastic job. She was an incredible player. She has everything that she needs to know in her head, and she's more than doing herself proud in that role as her manager.
Mm-hmm. And obviously Glasgow City and Celtic, the thing, obviously they're in a good position in terms of trying to get the title off Rangers. Do you think Glasgow City are the type of side to get it back? Do you think they're in a position? They're obviously sitting 6 points clear. Rangers and Celtic obviously have a game in hand, but they're in a really good position. We've got kind of right back scoring hat tricks as well. It shows you the talent they've got stacked throughout that squad.
Well, Glasgow City are a team of champions. They have been in Scottish football for such a long time, and I think it would be again remiss of us to think that because other teams like Celtic and Rangers are coming through and they've got the professional setup too, that suddenly City are just going to fall at the wayside. If you look at their squad, it's quality all the way through, and they've got options on the bench that most teams would do a lot for. But for me, Glasgow City are probably out to make a point. They've watched Rangers take it last season, and they won't be happy to take their hands off that cup for too long. So I think they're more than capable, and in all fairness, it would be a tough job to take it off them.
Yeah, definitely. Rangers obviously were held to a 0-0 draw by Hearts. Hearts, full credit to them, saw the game. Really, really impressive display from Hearts to hold Rangers to a 0-0 draw. Kind of big for both sides as well. Hearts, obviously, there is a gap between the top three, as we've spoken about many times, but these are the type of games where Hearts will be desperate to try and do something, and obviously as well, these are the type of, obviously the top three, they have kind of been beating everybody else quite comfortably, but this is the kind of first time where a team's dropped points to a team outside the top three. So it shows you that it can happen, and Hearts are more than capable of giving them a game.
Yeah, I mean, that result's turned heads, hasn't it? It's an incredible result, and obviously Hearts are celebrating that like a win, which you would when you're taking points off the champions. I actually read the Hearts match report, and Eva had said that one of the things that she found most the best way to plan and prepare for that game was to just instill belief in our players, because the majority of teams in that league don't believe that they can take points off the top three. So that was one of the things that she focused on in the lead up to that game, and I think you would agree that was obviously a very good way to approach it. But I think she said that they tried to match them defensively and in midfield, and admitted, albeit that, and you would expect in the second half, that they dropped a bit deeper, but I think they frustrated them, and you could probably count on one hand how many teams have been able to one, stop Rangers scoring against them this season, and two, take points off them.
Yeah, absolutely. Some result for Hearts as well. Aberdeen, a big difference in the past few weeks as well. A 2-0 win at home to Hamilton. Stewart and Hutchison with the goals. Aberdeen, obviously the managerial change in the past few weeks, but they have been in a really good run as of late, and obviously they're now at ninth. They were in a really poor position a few weeks ago, and they've turned it around quite well.
They're a team full of really young, switched-on players, and players that haven't played against them a couple of seasons ago, that just don't stop running. I don't know if you saw the goal. Did you see the goal? I think it came from the left back.
Yeah,
I didn't see the other one.
Yeah,
I saw one of them. That ball, I think, beat 9 players. And in all fairness, I thought that Bailey had maybe taken a touch too many before she slotted it away, but it was a really cool finish. Aberdeen they're a team that they're really sticky and they never give up. So for me, I was thinking this earlier, obviously Hamilton as well are a team who have had success in promotion from the league below, and then they've bobbled about in that league, and then they've been relegated again. And teams like Aberdeen have climbed, and they've been steady in their climb. So yeah, I think I probably would have taken Aberdeen prior to the game, if I'm being honest. But there's talent in there that if you foster it well enough, that they'll be there for a while, and they'll climb that league, I think.
What about your old club Hamilton? They're obviously now sitting at 11th. I think they've had a couple of good results. Obviously they'll want to get some more wins on the board. It's tough. I think you've got a lot of sides at that kind of bottom half of the table who are kind of much of a muchness, in terms of It's going to come down to results against each other of who's going to stay up, who's going to kind of climb the table. Where do you think kind of Hamilton are in that regard?
I find it a frustrating one, actually, to think about Hamilton. They're a great. I know Gary Doctorwell, and obviously I played under him. He's been there since I left. Very switched on, knows exactly what he wants to do. He's got a great group of players there, very capable. Took points off us when I was at Boroughmuir quite a few times. So they're a good outfit. But teams like Motherwell started 2 or 3 leagues below them and have overtaken them, and Aberdeen are the same. Dundee United are the same. So it's the question I'm asking is what is it about Hamilton? They attract good players, but what is it about them that they can't galvanise their place in that Premier League? I think that's where they belong, and I think that's where they should be. But they always seem to be fighting in about the bottom of the relegation zone every season, and I feel for them because I do think that they deserve to. Well, you only get out of this game what you put in, don't you? But they've tirelessly worked hard every season to try and just get a wee bit higher off the bottom of that table. And I just beg to ask that question: how teams like Aberdeen and Motherwell and that, who really are not really that far away from them, seem to attract, I wouldn't say a higher quality player, but attract players that are able to do the business, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll move into Hibs, a 2-0 victory away to Motherwell. Shannon McGregor and Katie Lockwood with the goals. Big result for Hibs as well. Been an up and down season so far, but that's a big 3 points.
Hibs at the start of the season, turned my head because I was thinking they had a few results there that were questionable. But again, they're another team of champions who, although haven't managed to win the league for a few years now, they certainly are not going to bow down and make it easy for teams. But again, they've got quality players all over the place, and I think they've got it in their sights to also try and become full-time professional. So in order for them to do that, they've got to start winning these games. But I mean, they're a couple of places above Motherwell on the table. It would have been a tight one to have predicted that, but I think they've played again, haven't they, previously this season where Motherwell took that game. Am I right? I can't quite remember.
I think you're right, yeah.
So it's probably easy-peasy between the two of them, but they've shown their class yesterday.
Yeah, I think they have as well. And Partick Thistle, final game in the SWPL 1, Partick Thistle 3, Spartans 0. I've been quietly impressed with Partick Thistle because they've got likes of Cara Henderson, Rachel Donaldson, both scored obviously at the weekend as well. Ferguson added the third. They've got kind of big players and they always contribute. And they're sitting top 6. That'll be undoubtedly their target to get into that top half of the league. And they're going about it well. They're just sitting there. They're quietly going about their business. They're a good. I think they're a really, really under the radar side in this division. Well,
again, this is another team that have climbed the ranks over the last few seasons and proved their quality against top teams. I've got again another few players that I've played alongside over the years in that squad who are still managing to kick on at the highest level. But again, to be beating Spartans 3-0. Spartans have got to be disappointed with that. Spartans are a team who they're never in the relegation zone and they're never really past into the top 4. They always kind of sit mid-table, but Partick Thistle just have attacking qualities. And I think that Cara girl that you mentioned had left and then came back, re-signed again. But they're a really well organised side. Tough to beat, tough to break down their defensive lines. With big Cheryl McCulloch at the back, and going forward, they're dangerous. So Spartans have suffered on that one.
Yeah, definitely. But it's obviously been a big weekend in that league. We'll move into SWPL 2 results to talk about. I think a big result in the two sides. Obviously, league leaders Gartcairn were 2-0 down to Stirling Uni. Came from behind to make it 2-2. Stirling Uni, obviously, they'll be gutted. You're 2-0 up away to the league leaders, and you don't win the game. But on the other hand, they'll be thinking that was we've shown a lot there. But Gartcairn, obviously, when you're 2-0 down, it's a sign of champions if you come from behind and get something out of the game.
Do you know, I've debated this a lot today. Who's going to feel most hard done by in this result? Because Stirling are sitting second bottom of that league and Gartcairn at the top. So before you've even kicked the ball, you're predicting that Gartcairn are going to win this. And then within the first, half of the game, they're 2-0 down. And whatever was said at half-time's made a difference. I don't know, it's tough as well when you watch the highlights of these games. Obviously, I wasn't at the game myself, but when you're watching the highlights, to me, it seemed like, and again, maybe this, I wouldn't like to say, but there's one, it was one team that provided the highlights, so maybe there wasn't enough of the the opposition team in there, but it certainly seemed like Stirling struggled in the second half to get a grip of the game. It felt like at times there was so much pressure being put on them that they didn't really know what to do with it, and only by maybe poor finishing from Gartcairn on occasion they managed to get the draw. But to be 2-0 up for them, again, it was I think it was a set piece and a penalty, two set pieces.
Yeah, I think it was
for Gartcairn.
Yeah.
Aye, so, and I honestly felt, and it's really tough because, I mean, who am I to have my opinion, but the goalkeeper on the penalty for Stirling will be disappointed. She guessed the right way, she went the right way, and it almost seemed like it went under her shoulder and her head. Definitely savable. So, in all fairness, I think Stirling probably would feel most hard done by, but like I said, to be up 2-0 against the league leaders, maybe that's a sign of the times for them. It's been a tough ride for Stirling. They've always kind of struggled at the bottom of the league, and they've never really found themselves mid to top. But maybe it's a sign of the times. It was a good result until the second half.
Yeah, absolutely as well. Obviously, with Gartcairn, like they would have thought with a 2-2 draw, they would maybe have dropped points and maybe even been. A couple of teams would have been closer to them, but they've actually ended up 3 points clear as opposed to 2. Obviously, Boroughmuir coming from behind twice to beat Montrose 3-2. Montrose were up twice in the game. Courtney McAvoy with a hat-trick for the hosts as well. That's a massive result for Boroughmuir. Obviously, going behind Montrose will have been looking to get up, obviously put pressure on Gartcairn, but Courtney McAvoy, that's a big hat-trick for her.
If there's anything you know about Courtney McAvoy, you know that she is super competitive. She's incredible in the air, good at set pieces. You really be wanting to mark her out the game, especially at set pieces. And I think I don't know how many of her goals, but I know one of them was certainly from a header. But again, that result would have turned heads because I don't think Boroughmuir would have been predicted to take the points from that game. Apparently, the game was incredible, and Boroughmuir matched them toe-to-toe right the way through. Again, Boroughmuir sitting 6th in that league. Not sure there's an awful lot of time to be turning that around, but certainly for Montrose, they'll be disappointed to drop those points, which sees them now 3 points behind Gartcairn.
It's been a weekend of comebacks in that league as well. St Johnstone were 1-0 up away to Kilmarnock, but a double from Abby Robertson and Monica Harty gave Kilmarnock the 3-1 win, and obviously they're now sitting in 3rd place. Big 3 points for Kilmarnock. Abby Robinson with a double. Again, just a weekend of comebacks, and Kilmarnock, they're getting players back. They're beginning to find their feet again. They struggle with injuries. Just getting players back, it's going to do them the world of good going forward.
Do you know, again, this is where I come back to earlier talking about that league. Obviously, Gartcairn, it's incredible that Gartcairn and Montrose are new to that league, and they're sitting in the top 2 positions, and you've got your teams underneath that kind of just hit the same positions as they do most seasons. But you know, Kilmarnock are a really good side, and you know, I was there with St Johnstone a couple of times myself. It usually starts the same type of game you get, but I think St Johnstone actually took the lead within, I think it was within a minute in that game.
Really early, yeah.
But in games like that, when you take the lead so early, you then tend, maybe panic a little bit, and then remember that you've got 90 minutes to go essentially. So I think Killie have got goal scorers in there, and from my experience against Killie, it's whether they're clinical on the day or not. And if they're not, obviously it sounds a bit daft, but if they're not clinical, and they tend to miss a lot of their chances or hit the post quite often. But when they're on it, they're unplayable at times. So I know St Johnstone and my friends there will be disappointed with that, especially going 1-0 up. I think they'd probably like to be sitting higher in that league table this season, and probably would admit to dropping points where they'd hoped to not have. But Kilmarnock, they're a good side. I think they've been chasing promotion in SWPL 1 for a few seasons now. I'm not quite sure that they'll catch up with Gartcairn, but there's still opportunity there, I suppose.
Yeah, final game, obviously another comeback. East Fife for 1-0 up away to Queen's Park. Callahan and a last-minute header from Eleanor Smith gave Queen's Park a 2-1 win, and they now sit 4th in the league. Again, we just did these comebacks all weekend, and the 4 games, and the away side were up, and then it just turned completely. But Queen's Park, big win for them. Kind of been going under the radar as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're again one of those sides, aren't they, that they don't set the world alight in terms of winning leagues, and then they tend to just go under the radar a wee bit. But there's quite a few teams with quality players that get the job done, as you said, and go about their business quietly. But I watched the set piece there that Queen's Park where they scored their header again. I think the East Fife goalie will probably feel like she could have done a bit better. I think it bounced in front of her and went under her over. I can't remember, but she'll be disappointed with that. I've got friends at East Fife too, and where are they? They're sitting bottom of the league. They got 0 wins and 4 points on the board. I think they would have felt like they could have at least gained another draw, if not won that game. But it was a brutal way to lose that. It's so close to the end of the game from a set piece. But again, East Fife have struggled. I don't know why. Played them previously again, and they've got really young, fit players. I don't know what it is they've got to do to attract players. Is it because of their location? I actually spoke with East Fife prior to joining Stenny, but the travel was equally to the distance it was to get to St Johnstone, so I edged away from it. But they're a good side, and again, I don't know what they need to do to attract players to the east of the country to try and climb them at that table. But I know they'll be disappointed with that because they performed quite well in that game, and to lose it in the last minute always hurts. Yeah,
it'll be a sore one as well. And into the championship, we'll start with Livingston 4, Ayr 1. Livingston again, they just keep rolling on. Jennifer Dodds with a double, Anderson and Mulligan. They look pretty good to be going up to the next tier.
Yeah, again, I think this shows how much I've been around the game. I've got ex-teammates in there as well, 3 or 4 of them actually, and ex-people as well. So
right, okay.
They're a good side. I've watched them from the very beginning. Like, their setup was always quite attracted me to watching, to see what was going on there. They've got a whole lot of support from the men's side, which I think does the wonders for the women's game. They've got the stadium there; it's very professional. In terms of that game, I've watched Livy and Ayr play previously, and again, I've got my mate Claire, who was on the show not long ago, in at Ayr, and I know they would have expected a little bit more from themselves in that game, but they lost 2 quick goals in succession. And I think when you're facing a team like Livingston, who are really strong going forward, with Ashley in there and obviously Brogan as well, who I've played with previously, really fast, quick players, know where the back of the net is. When they're so dominant going forward, it's hard to come back when you're 3-1 down. So.
Yeah, absolutely as well. Big thriller at Renfrew as well. 4-3 to Renfrew against Inverness. You certainly would have get your money's worth if you were there on Sunday.
Do you know what? It's my mate Karen Mason that's the gaffer in there. I was speaking to her today, and I think her words were something along the lines of incredibly frustrated at the amount of chances that they had, and they didn't put away. I think they felt like they could have, saw that one. But they made, again, she said that not only did they miss their opportunities, the goals that Renfrew scored were all individual errors, apparently. So
right.
I think she was incredibly disappointed at that result. And again, it's a big result in that league. Inverness are sitting 5th, and Renfrew are sitting 2nd. So I think for them, Inverness would have been trying to get into the top 3. It's going to be a real struggle now for them this season, knowing what the games they've got to come ahead. But Renfrew are a good side. Again, played against them plenty of times. Good, quick attacking forwards in there. Pretty solid at the back, and very physical side. Inverness are physical as well, but they'll definitely be disappointed with that. And I know that Inverness definitely feel like they should have got more of it out of it. Yeah,
a really entertaining game as well. I think obviously with both sides, when it's that kind of game, I think either side would probably have been. I think either side would have been delighted to win the game, and obviously something that if there's a winner, there's got to be a loser as well. It's just one of the things, and I think Inverness, they're maybe in a false position as well, because I think they have shown stage as well. They score a lot of goals, but I think they concede as well. I think that's been their issue, as you say. Individual errors are kind of their downfall at times. But the final result in the championship, Hotchie Vale won 4-0 away to Morton. You kind of look at this league, obviously, and you look at the top 3, and there's a 13-point gap between 3rd and 4th. I think with sides like Hotchie Vale and Ayr and Morton now, it's kind of turned into, can we finish best of the rest? Is that maybe fair to say?
Maybe so. I mean, I'm surprised that Morton are not higher in the league than what they are. I've got a mate again, Jackie Seagrave, who plays in there. She missed a penalty on Sunday.
Yeah.
I know for a fact she'll be disappointed with that. She's a fantastic player, got an eye for goal, and for her to miss a penalty, she'll be pretty devastated. But that would have changed the game. It would have been 2-1 at that point, and then you've got to ask questions about, what you can do. But Hutchie are another team that I feel have gone under the radar. They in previous seasons have struggled. In fact, I remember a time not long ago when they were maybe having to fold their team altogether and very quietly gone about their business. It's a team I don't know much about, but they've taken points off Edinburgh City, but not points, sorry. They took Edinburgh City out of the cup most recently, and Edinburgh City are another very dominant side in the league that I'm in. So I think Hutchie are maybe one to watch, in all fairness, in the weeks to come. But again, Morton, they'll be wanting to kick on, because sitting 7th in a league of 8, they'll not be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely as well. We'll move on to League One. We had 2 games over the weekend. FC Edinburgh, 8 points clear now at the top of the league. A 10-0 home victory over Dundee West. David McLeod and Nick Rutherford with hat-tricks, double from Mitchell, Markley and Simmons with other goals. You've obviously seen FC Edinburgh this season. They score a lot of goals. They're sitting with a plus 56 goal difference. I mean, when they're on it, they're very, very clinical.
It's funny you say we've seen them this season. We actually haven't played them yet this season. We had a fixture which was rearranged. It's actually this coming Sunday, and then we'll obviously have the home fixture too, which we've not obviously played yet. So, but we have been keeping a very close eye on them. And for me, they're a side the majority of my mates that was at Boroughmuir have went to. So, our fixture this Sunday will certainly be a bit of a grudge match. But they're so incredibly dominant in this league. And like I said, Hutchie Vale are the only team, I think. So Edinburgh Cali drew in them at the beginning of the season, took points off them, and obviously got knocked out of the cup by Hutchie. But aside from that, nobody's really been able to get close to them. And to be able to catch them for the top spot in this league is something that I know that we at Stenhousemuir are making a bit of a target. But we have under no illusions whatsoever as to what they can bring. And in this league, yes, Dundee West are sitting second bottom, but to score 10 goals past anyone in this league, to be fair, it's frightening how good their forward line is. It's one of the things I've chatted about in my own gaffer, in terms of Sunday coming, how we approach our game. But we're obviously going to want to go and attack at the same time. You leave these spaces in at the back, you leave yourself open. And Edinburgh City, you've got 5 or 6 players in there that will capitalise on that. And you'd be daft if you didn't consider that going into a game with them. But Dundee will be devastated. Looking at their goal difference at the moment, it's minus 44. It maybe wouldn't be unexpected playing top of the league and near the bottom, but I think Dundee West have probably struggled a bit this season, and Edinburgh, a 10-0 score doesn't look good in any league, but Edinburgh are a class team, so you can't not expect that to happen.
Yeah, and obviously the other result was Westdyke 1, Falkirk 1. Obviously they were second and third. Obviously you are sitting in fourth. Was a draw the result you wanted out of that?
It was. Yeah, I was watching that result quite closely, and again, myself personally, I missed the Falkirk game through injury, which I was devastated about. Played Westdyke. I think I missed the first one because I was away at a wedding, but the away game I played. And we went up 1-0. So, and then in the second half, they scored like 2 or 3 quick goals. Can't remember what the final score was, but both sides are very much of a muchness for me. So I always thought that a draw was maybe on the cards, which I'm glad happened, because it obviously gives us an opportunity to try and catch ourselves up for that second spot. Ideally first, but I think if we're being realistic, jumping into that Westdyke position in second place would be ideal. So yeah, a draw there. I think Falkirk will be a bit frustrated. I think they maybe would have thought that they could take all 3 points from that game, but Westdyke they're a tough side to beat, and myself obviously try to go up against our back line and just getting pushed about for pretty much 70 minutes of the game. It's tough to beat them, so a draw is probably fair, and yeah, one I'm glad about, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously look at that league as well. You look at like Westdyke, Falkirk, Grampian are in there as well. It is extremely competitive. It's obviously going to be big as well for Stenhousemuir getting back to competitive action. How big's the second half of the season, and what's the kind of aims and targets for the side?
So yeah, it's going to be huge. We've had at the very beginning of the season, actually before I joined them, the club had a bit of a change in management, change in players. They shuffled things about to try and get as high up in this league as we possibly could. So they made some changes in different places. And when I went in, obviously I've just been getting to grips with everything, but there wasn't a whole lot of chat with us about what we were to achieve by the first half of the season. only that we needed to be in the top 6 for the split, or the top half for the split. And there's not really been much pressure from the management in terms of anything else other than obviously try to get maximum points every week. But I think having had a conversation with my gaffer last week, we're very much in that state of mind now where every single one of us wants to finish in the top 2. With the new management coming in, I think it would have been fair to say setting yourself as a target of 2 or 3 seasons or maybe 2 seasons to get promotion has changed to, right, well, we can do it this season, or are we all up for this and we all going to go for this? And I think that's probably something that the girls are starting to get to grips with now, is that we can get promotion, and that's where we want to aim for.
Yeah, absolutely as well. And about yourself as well, obviously getting back into playing and things like that, is the plan for the kind of rest just to play as long as you want? And have you thought about kind of getting into coaching and things like that? Like, what's the kind of next steps after playing? You thought about that?
Yeah, forcefully thought about that. People tend to ask me more now in my lateral years about what I'll do next, and would I ever consider going into a coaching role. They asked me that at St Johnstone, and Murdo, that was in there at the time, I think got a shock when I responded. But I asked him whether he felt that it was time I should go into the coaching role, and he was like, no, I just thought, could we maybe get you in, do a bit of both. But I think for myself, being a PE teacher, I teach every day, all day long.
Yeah.
I think when I get to the evenings, has been up to this point certainly, about my time and how I get my kick, so to speak, and it's always been through playing. I wouldn't say I'd never consider it, but I think for me, I'm so competitive, I'm so driven still. I might not have the physical attributes that maybe I once had to play what I used to play like, but for me it's still in playing. So for as long as I possibly can, I think that's going to be my aim, until a gaffer comes along and says, right, you're on the bench, so your opportunity is to coach or leave. But no, I don't think for me coaching is going to be a priority. But ask me again when nobody signs me, then I'll come back to you.
Right. Helen, it's been an absolute pleasure to get through the results and obviously talk to you as well. Thank you very much for coming on, and best of luck for the season ahead and the rest of your career.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be on, and good luck for the rest of the season with everything, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow our social media channels for consistent women's football coverage. And as always, subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels for a new show every week on the women's game. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Cheers.